Hello everyone, my name is Hubert and welcome to Teach Me channel. Today we will be talking about energy resources and their uses. Now, this is a nice little topic and we'll quickly cover two different types of energy, the non-renewable energy and renewable energy. And I will give you a quick rundown of these different types of energy and how they work. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, we have two types of energy. We have non-renewable energy and we have renewable energy. Now, in a strictest sense of meaning, renewable energy only means that the energy does not run out. That's the only thing it means. It doesn't mean that this energy is cleaner or better for environment, even though in most cases it is. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Renewable energy means only that this type of energy will never run out, or that it can be renewable, essentially, whereas non-renewable energy means that this type of energy will one day run out. Now, at the moment, we are mostly reliant on non-renewable energy because at the moment, as things stand, non-renewable energy allows us to make, on average, it allows us to make much more energy than renewable energy does. Also, non-renewable energy is at the moment more reliable. Because if we have a look at the sources of non-renewable energy, we have coal, which is essentially, burning coal, which will give us energy. Oil, which again comes down to burning oil, which will give us energy. And same for natural gases, you burn them, and that gives you energy. So, it is as simple as acquiring some of these materials and then burning them. And we can calculate exactly how much energy we will get from burning 1 kilogram of coal, how much energy we will get from burning 1 kilogram of oil, or how much energy we will get from burning 1 kilogram of natural gas. So these types of energy are incredibly reliable. However, these types of energy are bad for environment, of course, because you rely on burning these fossil fuels, which releases harmful chemicals, carbon dioxide, but also plenty of other harmful chemicals. So these types of energy tend to be worse off for environment. That's not to say that renewable energy is perfect, but these tend to be quite bad for environment. And yeah, and that's it. However, if we talk about renewable energy tends to be a bit cleaner. It tends to be a bit better for environment. However, most of these renewable energy types also carry certain risks, certain harm to environment. They are not perfect. For example, one type of renewable energy are biofuels, which you still burn and you still harm the environment by burning them. Or solar cells. To acquire materials required to build these solar cells, you also need to harm an environment. So these aren't perfect when it comes to environment, but they do tend to be much better than non-renewable energy. One thing that needs to be said about renewable energy is that, on a whole, because of the way it works, it tends to be less reliable. For example, solar cells require sun to be there. Well, they can still work in cloudy days, but in cloudy days they will make you less energy than in sunny days. And at night they won't make you much energy at all. So they are much less reliable than, say, coal, which you just dig up and then whenever you need energy you just burn it. So they are much less reliable, renewable energy sources on a whole. And with those, you often cannot choose how much energy you get. Right? Going back to non-renewable energy, you can calculate how much coal you need, how much oil you need, how much natural gas you need to meet your energy demand. Whereas with renewable energy, unfortunately, you cannot do that. Solar energy will give you as much energy as the sun gives you. Wind energy will give you as much energy as the wind gives you. Some types of renewable energy can be controlled, but not all of them. Okay, so now I will quickly go through some different energy types within these categories and how they work. We already covered non-renewable energy, which comes down to digging up the required fossil fuel and then burning it. And that gives you energy. You can use that heat energy from burning to heat up the steam, which evaporates and turns the turbine. And that's how a power station would work. That's how you'd convert heat energy from non-renewable source to electric energy via use of a power station. Okay, now let's move on to renewable energy. So first of all, we have solar energy, where in reality it can work in two ways. One way is you can use solar energy to heat things directly. You can sometimes in hotter countries, you may have seen it. People on top of their houses, people have these sort of big tanks of water, which essentially get heated by the sun throughout the day. These tanks of water get heated by sun throughout the day. However, we can also use solar energy to obtain electricity, which uses solar cells. Solar cells are specialized to convert that energy from sun to electricity. It is a bit complex. It's all about movement of electrons, where sun rays hit the solar cell and then these electrons start moving around, which creates electric current, which is how we obtain electricity from solar energy. So this is a bit complex, we don't need to go into it right now. We will be making a video, I will be making a video where I will be covering these different types of energy in more detail. This is just the basic sort of quick rundown. Now, second type of energy is wind energy, which if you live in Europe, you probably have seen wind farms, which are very sort of common across the Europe. You have essentially like a pole with blades on it, which are attached to a turbine. And as the wind blows, the wind turns these blades, which in turn turn the turbine, which generates electricity. The next type of energy, we have water waves. Now this one's interesting because because here we have a sealed chamber. It is sealed. The air inside that chamber is trapped. It is essentially trapped. Here, the yellow blob here, that's a turbine. Now, what happens is that these waves move up and down. These waves move up and down. And what happens is that they essentially squish, if they move up, they squish the air inside the sealed chamber, which gets pushed out of the turbine. It gets pushed out. But in order to get pushed out, because the chamber is sealed, it has to be pushed out through the turbine. So as it comes out through the turbine, it turns it and generates electricity. And conversely, when the waves go down, they create this sort of vacuum, so the air gets pulled in. So the air comes back in, but again, since it's a sealed chamber, it has to go through the turbine. So again, it turns the turbine again and creates electricity. Okay, moving on. Now let's move on to next page. 1 second. Okay. Next up, we have hydroelectric energy. We have hydroelectricity. Now, how does that work? Essentially, you may have seen it in National Geographic or some other documentaries where you have a dam. And water level on one side of a dam is much higher than on the other side of a dam. Inside the dam, we have a seal which we can open and we can let the water flow. And the water will flow from place where it's higher up to place where it's lower up. So there are various ways you can have this. Sometimes you can use a water naturally flowing from like a upstream, downstream, or you can use a dam as I drew here. But anyway, point is the water flows from a place where it's higher up to a place where it's lower up if we open that seal. As soon as we open that seal, that water starts flowing through that seal downwards. Now, inside the pipe through which the water will be flowing, we can put in a turbine. And as the water flows, the turbine is being turned. And that generates big amounts of electricity, electric energy. So that's how hydroelectricity works. Now, next one up, we have biofuels. Now, the biofuels are probably the ones that resemble non-renewable energy the most. Because what happens is we use plant oils, we grow plants and then we extract oil from them, which then we can burn for fuel. We can burn it and use it to supply heat directly, or we can burn it and in much the same way as we do in non-renewable energy, we can use it to heat up steam, which then evaporates and turns the turbine, which is essentially how normal power station works. Now, another interesting renewable... and before I move on, this type of energy also isn't very clean. It is not perfect when it comes to environment because, of course, you are burning biofuel, so you're releasing carbon dioxide and some other harmful chemicals. Granted, bit less than if you were burning, say, oil, but you still do. And also, there are some problems because now you need more farmland to grow these plants that you're gonna be converting to biofuels. So, of course, that may lead to problems such as deforestation and various other environmental problems. So, this one isn't perfect when it comes to environment, but it is renewable. You can just keep growing these plants and keep making biofuels. And that doesn't run out. Your ability to grow plants doesn't really run out. Okay, another interesting one are tides. We can obtain energy from tides. So, as the moon sort of pulls the water around, as it goes around the earth, it sort of drags the water behind it. And we can put up this sort of dam with open pipes through which water has to flow. If the tide changes, the water absolutely has to flow through these sort of pipes. And inside those pipes, again, much like in hydroelectric, we can put in turbines through which the water has to flow and it has to turn them to generate electricity. The difference here is that in hydroelectricity we use gravity to make water move through that pipe, whereas in tidal energy we use the tide, the moon pulling that water through those pipes to generate energy, to generate electricity. The final renewable energy source that we will discuss today is geothermal energy. Now, this one is interesting because it relies on natural hot rocks that just sort of happen to be really hot. And that usually happens near or on the side of a volcano where we have magma from the earth heating up the rocks that it touches. So especially when a wall happens to be thinner in one place, those rocks will be hot, they will be heated up. And we can use that heat, you can harness that heat to make energy. So 2 ways we can do this. We can heat the water directly and then pump it to people's radiators to use as a heat directly. Or we can use this in a similar way we would make a classic power station. Instead, we would have the heat from those rocks heating up water, which evaporates into steam, and then as it rises, it turns the turbine, and we generate electricity that way. So we can generate heat directly, or we can generate electricity using geothermal energy. Okay, so that's it for the different energy types that we'll be discussing today. And those energy types, important uses of energy. There are many uses. We can use energy in so many ways, as you probably know. But 2 big uses are for transport and heating. Now, so I'll give you some examples. So for transport, we can use oil and as a non-renewable energy. We can convert oil to petrol, which then is being burned, which pushes the engine cylinders, which creates the sort of car movement. And we can use coal. We can use coal to heat up water to create steam, which turns the sort of wheels in an old-fashioned steam train. However, as on the renewable side, we can use biofuels in much the same way we can use oil. Instead, we just burn biofuel, which pushes the cylinders in the engine, which makes the car move. Or anything else for that matter. Another use that we can use that sort of newly gained energy for is heating, as I already sort of discussed a bit here and there. So we can use, on non-renewable side, we can use gas and coal, which basically we can use those two to heat up water that then can be pumped into radiators. Hot water can be pumped into radiators, which radiate and release that energy, that heat energy into our homes. So the home gets heated up, as we talked about convection currents the other day. And on the renewable side, we can use geothermal energy, as I said, by heating up that water and directly pumping it to people's radiators, much in the same way. Or we can use solar energy by having those big water tanks on top of the roof and then using sun to heat up that water. Or we can use biofuels, again, in the same way we would use gas or coal. We would burn it to heat up the water and then pump that hot water into people's radiators. Okay, so this is it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it every time you guys watch it. If you want to stay up to date on daily physics, maths, chemistry and biology and some biomedical science videos, hit the subscribe button below. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and see you next time.